You ever have one of those days where you feel like two different people? You know, the focused, disciplined champion at 7 a.m., and then the exhausted, impulse-driven mess at 7 p.m.? You start the day with this perfect plan, full of energy, only to watch it all just fall apart? Well, what if I told you that collapse isn't a moral failing? Today, we're diving into a science-backed idea that's going to completely change how you think about discipline, motivation, and maybe even yourself. Just let that one sink in for a minute. This idea right here is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. Willpower isn't about being a good person or a strong person. It's a physical resource, just like the battery on your phone, and it runs down with use. It's not a virtue, it's a capacity. Over the next few minutes, we're going to show you that your lapses in self-control aren't you being weak. They're a predictable, even logical, physiological reality. And that's the real question, right? We beat ourselves up, we feel so guilty, and we promise we're going to try harder tomorrow. But look, if self-control is a finite resource, trying harder is like flooring the gas pedal in a car that's out of fuel. It's not just useless, it totally misses the point. For so long, we've been trying to solve a resource management problem with shame and brute force, and it just doesn't work. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack that cycle of self-blame to see the emotional trap we get stuck in. Then, we'll get into the science of what's happening to your brain on empty. After that, we get practical with strategies to work smarter, not harder. And finally, we'll put it all together to see how failure is really just a signal for a new approach. So let's jump into that first cycle. All right, this first part, it's all about that feeling of frustration, that daily grind of being so inconsistent, and the regret that just builds up. If you've ever felt like you're fighting a losing battle with yourself, this is for you. We're going to put a name to the problem that we all feel but don't always understand. So, does this look a little familiar? Yeah, at 7 a.m., you are a productivity god. You've got the plan, you're going to crush a workout, eat perfectly, and tackle that huge project. You feel awesome, you feel in control. But then 7 p.m. hits. The gym feels like a ridiculous idea, you're elbow deep in a bag of chips, scrolling on your phone instead of working, and you're snapping at everyone around you. That gap between who we want to be and who we are at the end of the day is brutal, and it makes us blame our character when the real culprit is just an empty tank. There's a scientific name for this whole thing: ego depletion. The idea is really simple, but its implications are massive. Every single time you make yourself do something difficult, whether it's resisting a donut, staying calm in traffic, focusing on a boring spreadsheet, or even just deciding what to have for dinner, you are using up energy from the same single source. It's not one tank for work, another for your diet. It's all one tank. And when it's gone, it's gone. And what happens when that tank finally hits E? Well, the fallout is incredibly predictable. Your ability to concentrate just vanishes. You're reading the same email over and over. Your emotions are all over the place. That little thing that wouldn't have bothered you in the morning now makes you furious. Your ability to make good, rational choices? Forget about it. And here's the big one. Your brain defaults to the easiest path, which is always your most ingrained automatic habits. You don't decide to procrastinate, it just happens, because it's the low-energy option. And this is where it becomes a really destructive feedback loop. You have that lapse, right? You skip the gym. Your first reaction is probably shame, blaming yourself. But here's the catch. That act of beating yourself up, that intense self-criticism, it actually uses up a ton of mental energy. So it drains your already empty tank even more, which makes it almost certain you're going to fail again. It's a downward spiral, a system that's perfectly designed to keep you stuck. So we've talked about what it feels like. Now let's pull back the curtain and look at what's actually happening inside your brain. This is the biology behind the crash. And for a lot of people, this is the big aha moment where you stop blaming yourself and start understanding the machine. Okay, so here's exactly what happens in your head. Let's call it the system override loop. Step 1, there's a demand. You need to focus or resist something tempting. Step 2, resource use. Your prefrontal cortex, which is like the CEO of your brain, gets to work. And its fuel is glucose. It's literally burning sugar to keep you in control. But it's a limited supply. So eventually you hit step 3, a metabolic crisis. The glucose levels in your PFC drop and it starts to lose power. That triggers step 4, the system override. Your brain, being smart and efficient, basically says, okay, we're low on power. Time to shut down the main engine and hands control over to the older, more energy-efficient parts, the parts that run on pure habit and impulse. This chart shows you exactly why that override happens. It's just simple economics. Look at the energy bill. The prefrontal cortex, your executive control center, is a total gas guzzler. It burns through a ton of glucose. But the basal ganglia, where your habits live, it's like an ultra-efficient hybrid. It barely sips fuel. So when your brain's energy reserves are low, it makes a completely logical choice. It shuts down the gas guzzler and switches to the hybrid. Slipping into an old habit isn't a moral failure. It's your brain being incredibly energy efficient. And this energy shift completely changes what your brain cares about. When you're rested and fueled up, your PFC is in the driver's seat, and it's focused on big, abstract, long-term goals. Your health, your career, becoming a better person. But when you're depleted, the priority shifts immediately. Your brain stops caring about your career 5 years from now. It only cares about the immediate, concrete reward of sugar or the comfort of just scrolling on your phone. It's not being irrational. It's strategically sacrificing the future to save energy right now.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, we get the science. And I know it can sound a little bleak, but here is the good news. Once you understand the rules of the game, you can start working with your biology instead of constantly fighting against it. This section is all about practical, actionable strategies. We're shifting from the why to the how.
This is the huge paradigm shift. We have to stop trying to be willpower superheroes. It's a losing battle. The real goal is to become a brilliant manager of your own mental energy. The focus has to shift from brute force and trying harder to smart conservation and strategic planning. So how do we actually do that? Strategy 1 is all about playing defense. First, you have to be ruthless. Figure out the 1 or 2 things today that absolutely require your best mental energy, and do them in the morning when your tank is full. Then automate everything you possibly can. Things like deciding what to eat or what to wear. Those little decisions drain you. So plan your meals, lay out your clothes the night before. And finally, get really good at saying no. Every small yes to something that doesn't matter is a withdrawal from the account you need for your big goals. Now, our next strategy is a powerful way to basically pre-program your brain to do the right thing automatically. This technique lets you bypass the need for willpower in the moment by putting your good behavior on autopilot. You're outsourcing the hard work to your habits. It's called if-then planning, and it is a total game changer. You create a simple rule that connects a trigger to an action. If this specific thing happens, then I will automatically do this other thing. So, for example, if my workday ends, then I will immediately put my phone in a drawer. Or if my 6 a.m. alarm rings, then I will put on my gym clothes without thinking. What you're doing is handing control from that energy-guzzling PFC to your super-efficient basal ganglia. You're no longer deciding in the moment, you're just running the program you already wrote. And finally, strategy number 3. If self-control is a muscle, then it needs recovery. This is not optional. You have to build recovery into your day. Sleep is the ultimate recharge. Getting 7 to 8 hours is absolutely critical. Food is your fuel. Eating protein and fiber helps stabilize your blood sugar, giving your brain a steady energy supply. And take real breaks. And I don't mean doom scrolling on social media. That just drains you more. I mean stepping away, maybe doing a minute of deep breathing to lower your stress and let your brain reset. Okay, let's bring this all together. We've gone from the pain of failing to the science behind it, and now to some practical strategies. This last part is all about locking in a new and, frankly, a much kinder and more effective way to think about self-control. We've all been taught that success comes from just grinding it out, right? That you just have to push harder, power through, and fight your urges every step of the way. But as we've seen, the science tells us that's a recipe for burnout. The real key to long-term success is radical conservation. It's about treating your mental energy like it's the most valuable currency you have. It's about designing your life so that the right choice is the easy choice. It's about building systems that carry you forward, especially on the days when you're tired, stressed, and running on empty. And if you remember only one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. When you fail, when you give in, it is not a sign that you are weak. It's not a moral lapse. It is a biological signal. It's the check engine light on your dashboard. It's just data telling you that your system is out of fuel and you need a better strategy. So, I want to leave you with this final question. Stop asking yourself, how can I be stronger? And start asking, what system can I build? What's one small, simple process you could put in place today that would make the right choice almost inevitable tomorrow? Maybe it's laying out your gym clothes tonight. Maybe it's setting up one if-then plan for when you get home from work. That is where real sustainable change begins.